Okay, why don't we get started again? I think most of us are back in here and hopefully online. You had a good break. I just realized I was so focused on getting this set up, I didn't push the start recording button. So the first half will not be recorded, but the second half actually is when I'm going to talk about the dedupe, the next steps from that. So it's really the more important part of the meeting, not that what we didn't talk about during the first half isn't, but I know people were wondering with the dedupe. So I do apologize for that, though. It was a bit disorganized this morning, so I will try to be better next time. But like I said, though, Kelly is taking notes. We will make those available. But the recording will just be the last part of the meeting. It'll be shorter. Maybe more people will listen to it, right? Okay. So there's two more scripts, and then I thought we would talk about what's left from the dedupe, how that turned out, the second phase of it, the final phase. Okay, so in terms of, this is actually the last script that we're running. The other thing I wanted to tell you about was something actually that Rhonda's going to help us keep an eye on. I know, again, for on-order libraries, it's been a source of frustration. But first, this last script, this script, we will start it again next week because this one was working correctly. It's supposed to look for records that are brief records, and it flips the text case on the records in the author or the title field. It flips it to uppercase. It didn't work right when we ran it last month because the script before it changed OCLC records to the brief format. So it caused the text to get uppercase on the OCLC records. But if we further troubleshoot that script that was incorrectly changing record formats, and we don't run that right now, this script will be good to go. So let's look at an example of what it would change. So again, this is just targeting brief records, and it's to try to help. I know everybody in the room and online does a pretty good job. When you put in a brief record, you do uppercase, but we still have some of our members, and I know you've seen them. They're old records, some of them are new records. People don't put in the uppercase convention like what we would like to see to indicate brief records. Okay, so I'm looking in Pittsfield. Okay, so there should be, brief records tend to float to the bottom by default. So this is a good candidate. Again, we haven't run the script since the 26th of last month. So this one, it should have been considered actually. How much wasn't? That might be something to revisit, but this is one that should be changed because notice it is a brief format, and it's in sentence case in the 245. So we're trying to target records like this to bump them up to uppercase. That way it's clearer both to you as cataloging staff, and I think too public services staff have come to know brief records as the uppercase. This might be one to revisit when we run it again. Being changed. But this one did run successfully. It just changed records, though, that it shouldn't have because the script before it flipped them to brief. So if we don't run that script before it, like I mentioned, this script would still be safe to run. Okay, the last thing, this, like you mentioned, isn't a report, but it's something that Rhonda's going to keep an eye on for on-order libraries, and I know for Peoria and Quincy, and possibly others of you that do on-orders, this has been a source of frustration. So let me pull up an example. We're calling these orphan on-order call numbers. I think that's right. Let's see if it brings it up. take away the...
Melissa said that they may have fixed that very recently.
Okay. I'm hoping to find phone. Yeah, okay. Well, that's okay. So what it basically is, I'll see if I can explain this. I wonder if I could, since I'm in the clone, I wonder if I could put in it.
So she's sorry, we noticed an issue.
No, that's good. And that means that the hold wasn't on there anymore. We can actually get rid of it. But what we're seeing, that Peoria was on this one, I'm imagining things. No, that's okay. But there's basically an on order call number. It may still be XX. It may say, like in Quincy's case, I noticed you put delete. So you've attached your fully cataloged item to the OCLC record because the book has come in, it's ready to go out. But the on order item is also attached to the full record. Good, Jeannie is nodding her head. And you can't delete the on order item because there's title level hold. So Rhonda's going to do it. I admit it's a bit of a pain in the butt, the workaround Rhonda's going to be doing, but she's going to be getting a report of these that Doug helps us set up that reports those orphans that are on full records, and then she's going to try to delete them. But if you're noticing them on your end,
Melissa said, yes, I put delete in the call number if we have an issue, so I know I've looked at it and can't delete it yet, then I check on them.
Yeah, okay, so that actually will help Rhonda on the report, because even if there's title level hold, she's basically going to take it off of the record and delete it, and the holds will stay on there. So that's a process that it's a bit complicated. We'd like to take care of it from our end. But if you're noticing them on your end, like what Melissa's saying, and I see nods too from Liza and Jeannie, you're welcome, of course, to try and get rid of them on your end. But we just know that it's causing confusion having these orphans out there. And then when you can't delete them and have to keep checking because they're on hold, that to me is a really inefficient use of time. So we try and monitor them.
We've been checking them out to missing. Should we stop doing that? Is that going to interfere with Robin or Rhonda's?
Yeah, because it's checked out to something I can't delete.
Okay, we'll stop doing that.
Yeah, because that's right. If it's marked as
Checked out to something I
Yeah, because we didn't want it to show up for patrons to think that that was something to check out.
Like if it's an on-order item type.
Would you mind discharging those from?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, and if Rhonda.
I'm not sure we actually have any. If Jennifer Schote is listening,
okay,
she can maybe send you an example of a stuck number.
How about it normal? Do you just let them sit there, or?
We don't.
Okay.
We don't have a solution.
Don't have a solution. Okay, well, this should help then.
Jennifer said, okay.
She's probably going to find you a item number that is stuck for us right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just, I won't go into the workaround, but okay, Melissa has some too. Yeah, okay. Let me see if I can copy it. Can I not copy it? Let me open the text chat. I'm afraid of messing something up after not starting the record. Okay. Let's try this one since it sounds like this should be, let's collapse this. This should be in here. Is it because I'm in the clone server? Let's see. Let me log into the live server, right? You know what? Let's try it in this one. I've got two open. That other one's slightly older.
Wait, let me find it.
Okay. Oh, good.
Oh,
Curious.
ours is empty at the moment. Okay.
Okay, so this one, well, this one should let you delete it. There's no hold on it. Yeah, I'm not going to try to delete it. but I don't see the holds icon. Let me try my other example. That one I think should be good to delete, because again, I don't see any. Okay, yeah, see, that's the part that's a pain, isn't it, Melissa, having to check. Let me try that one earlier, now that I'm in the different server here. The one I was trying to find was the King Arthur. Okay, it looks like she's got another one in case this one doesn't. Okay, yeah, this is what I was, is this, Melissa, like the example too you just shared? So where you have it fully cataloged on this good OCLC record, and then also have the, what was the original on order on here. And you're making the item new, correct? So that you can track its true catalog date versus the on order date, which could have been months or even years ago. So does this match it normal, the problem you're having, where it's basically an orphan on here?
You know, I can't see.
Okay. It's basically what used to be the original on order and then a fully cataloged item. So we're trying to monitor on our end these things that are the orphans, what was the on order, so that they can be removed, and then we can just try to keep the records real clean and not have you check repeatedly. So thank you to Rhonda for being willing to do that project.
I'm still waiting for the report, so.
Yes, the report is going to be built here when Doug gets some time. So if you do still have a folder like what you do at Peoria, and it sounds like Melissa has a list, so definitely keep.
Send your list to me.
Yeah, definitely keep your lists, and if you want to share them with Rhonda, send it to the help desk. Oh, good, it's a short list at Quincy. But that would help to provide examples for the report in case when we're getting the report built, Doug needs more examples. Sometimes that happens. Okay, that's probably more than enough about database maintenance. Mostly I just wanted you to know the scripts we're running and things we're trying to do, since we haven't been doing a lot of these things for almost a year because of all the projects going on. Okay, any questions? Okay, let's go back to the agenda. A couple of quick hitters. I did just want to reassure I have not forgotten about reworking the procedures and also the annual records for those weekly serials. Both of those are definitely still priorities. I had talked to Scott from Swan, the Bibliographic Services Manager, last month, and we were actually going to talk a little bit about annual serial records in the serial control module when they visited to talk about the dedupe, and then he got strep throat and didn't come. So it is still on my radar to do. I really would like to get, we have hopefully our two last, I like new libraries, but like Martha and I sometimes talk about, they're a lot of work, so we're going to try to get our last two libraries, Ransom Memorial Library and Flanagan Public Library. I'd like to try and get them started. I've got calls with them here in the next couple weeks. So some of these projects, they're definitely still important, but these new libraries have come first. So I just wanted to reassure you for the BibLoad procedures and then also those annual records. Definitely still priorities of things I know we need to do to improve our database integrity as a whole. Okay. I thought I would just recap the second phase of the deduplication resolution project. I know some of these details I provided somewhat generically during the users group in November, but I know a lot of you don't go to the users group meetings, so I thought we could look at some examples and go into a bit more detail than what I did for the users group. That's usually managers and directors, people not doing the cataloging. I've identified a few things that we're going to need to do on our end internally, in terms of cleanup. Some of them we've talked about before. One of them came up when we did a different script. Some things still aren't right, so we'll talk about that. But like I said, we'll just go at this from the second phase of the project that happened in late October. I won't start from the beginning again. And hopefully, unless we need your help with some of the cleanup that we'll be doing as we have time, hopefully this will be the last time that we have to talk about it ad nauseum. Okay. So I have the purple database. That should be the most recent copy of the database. And then the pink one is that, no wonder it didn't work. The pink one is the one that we made before we did the dedupe, so we can see records before they got messed up. So that's why recent examples weren't showing up in here. I got my colors confused. Okay, so let me take a look at my notes here and make sure I touch on everything. Okay, so remember with the deduplication, the resolution, the second phase, and I think we talked about this at the last meeting we had in September, because we knew when we did, and a lot of it was because of examples you in the room reported, we knew after the first phase of the restoration in August that records were unintentionally excluded. So there were 3 categories of records that were excluded, and these have been taken care of in the second phase of processing that we did in late October. So the first category was records, remember, that we either here or at your library, you noticed they were wrong after the dedupe ran in March, and so you corrected them, moved them onto the correct record. Remember, we knew the record itself wasn't going to be restored again because the record was already in there, but what wasn't clear during that first phase of processing is that if not all of the items were moved on to it that should have been, the dedupe wasn't going to touch the rest of them. So it basically said hands off to anything that had been manually corrected. The second phase did correct that. So I thought we would look at an example that Normal Library reported of one of these that fit this first category of problems, so we can see that it's on the right record now. So I'm looking for it first in the pre-dedupe server before we did any processing, the pink one. Let me make sure I typed that right. Okay, this is the Paw Patrol. Again, pre-dedupe, before any changes were made. Notice its OCLC number is the 4197. So I'm going to take that same item ID. This is, remember, the more recent server that's been through all the processing of the dedupe and the rededupe and the undedupe. 4197 here in the, yep. Okay, so that has been restored. So there were about 1,500 of those that met that problem where either we or you had manually corrected it. It said hands off during the first phase. In the second phase, though, those were corrected. The second category that was unintentionally excluded from the first phase of processing of the restoration were these things where the restorer was going to move the last item that was attached to the wrong record. It was going to move it to the correct record. Cersei stopped that transaction because it was going to remove the record entirely. We wanted that because it was the wrong record. That wasn't clear, though, during the first phase of restoration, that if it was the last item, they were going to keep it in there to preserve the record. So I have another example. of one of these that fits that second category where it wasn't moved because it was the last item on the wrong record and it would remove the wrong record. So let's look at it first in the pre-dedupe. Okay, I thought it was a Pekin item, right down the wind. Notice our 001 field, the control number ends in 4957. Go back to the more recent server. Okay. Here it is again, the 0014957. So we're back on the record we were on before. There were just over 300 of those that were fixed. The last category that was unintentionally excluded from the first phase of restoration, but it's been corrected now. It's the most difficult to explain, where there was a group of records that merged, and at least 2 of the records in that group merged originally because they matched on the OCLC number in the 001, which is what we wanted. But there were other records in the group that merged, but they didn't match on the OCLC number. They maybe matched more loosely on the title or the title and the format. So again, we were under the impression that unless it matched on the OCLC number, it was going to be undone by this first phase of restoration. That first phase, though, said hands off, much like it did for the first category of records. So if 2 of the records in that group had merged based on OCLC number, it basically ignored the rest of them in that first phase. This has been corrected now by the second phase. There were over 6,800 of these. There were 6,838. So this was clearly the biggest category. This is a Chillicothe example. I know Genevieve and Megan there looked especially at graphic novels, and this is one of them that they reported. So let's take a look at it first in the pre-dedupe server. Should be Hawkeye, yep. Our OCLC number ends in 2786. So I've taken that barcode. Here we go, Hawkeye, OCLC number 2786. So again, this was part of a group that merged. This one didn't merge based on the OCLC number. It was ignored during the first phase, but now it's back on its correct record since it was considered during the second phase. Okay. So that happened in late October. We did exclude from that processing about 120 item IDs because during the second phase of processing, they were more granular in the reports they could give us. So we could tell item IDs were being reused for things like magazines and large print rotating collections. We didn't realize that was still going on. So we excluded reused barcodes from the second phase of processing. We did not do that during the first phase. So we have had, not so much lately, but at first there were some libraries that said this magazine is a completely different title than what our barcode is. So there were cases where barcodes were being reused and they were restored to the wrong record, but not during this second phase, since we excluded them. Okay, those AG, ALS, PDC, those anchor call numbers, do you remember those that when they brought in a record, Cersei Dynex, that wasn't in the database, they restored it, they would put an AG, ALS, PDC call number on it to anchor it. Martha actually discovered this. So we were told they were deleted, which they were, but they didn't, at Cersei, they forgot to re-index our database, so we were still seeing, it basically displayed a weird error when you did a search for our AG collection. And then when the re-indexing was done, it basically finished taking them out of the database. They're no longer in the index. I think, Martha, didn't you come across that by accident, those AGs? But yeah, and they were like, oh, you know, I don't think they knew that needed to be part of the process. And we, of course, didn't know to ask. We assumed when they were deleted, the index would be updated. I didn't think it'd be a separate process. But luckily, Martha discovered that so they could complete the indexing, and now they're truly gone. Okay, another thing Martha did to help too, you might have been contacted, but remember some of the items Cersei Dynex wasn't able to move back to the restored record because they were in transit. I know Martha reached out to those libraries with affected items, and some of them, didn't you, Martha, if they couldn't find them, you just checked them out to the lost transit account? Okay. So the in-transit items that could be moved to the correct records, those are taken care of. Thank you to Martha.
And I put a note on the record, so.
Well, that way if they come back too,
Oh, yeah, people will know what.
yeah, they'll still be in there, yeah. Okay, I did want to reassure you too that the OCLC updates that we do each month, so the one in September, the one in November, they caught these restored records in your holdings. So your holdings in OCLC, unless you've been manually updating them, which I know nobody, it sounds like it's still doing that. So these restored records reflect your holdings in OCLC. So I thought I would show you two of the examples, one from normal, one from Chillicothe, just so you can see how the holdings are correct now in OCLC on the restored records. Okay. One of them that normally reported after the first phase of restoration that wasn't fixed with Star Wars Rebels. So I'm going to look up that one. Okay, so let's look that up in the 3D database. Okay. So there's definitely a normal item on Star Wars Rebels on this control number. So this was pre-dedupe, remember, before anything was incorrectly merged. Notice here's this record again. I'm of course logged in with our RSA account, so it's not easy to see at the top of the screen like it would be if we were logged in as normal. But notice here, if I go to the view holdings for the state, there's your symbol. So you're reattached now to the correct record in OCLC. To me, that piece was important to check because our batch holding process we thought would take care of that, but this confirms that it did. Okay. Do the same thing for a Chillicothe item. This again was the Hawkeye item they reported. I know they had several of them, but they were all similar patterns. Okay, so here's the record again. We'll look it up in the pre-dedupe just to confirm Chillicothe was in fact attached to it. Okay, there's Hawkeye 2786. There's Chillicothe right there. So if I go back here to my holdings, my state, they should be ISI right here. Yep, there they are. So they're attached too. So holdings are in good shape to reflect these restorations. Okay. Before I talk about a couple things that still need cleanup on our end, do you have any questions about those three problem categories? Okay. One thing we discovered, remember I posted on the listserv in early December, we had a script run that took Quincy records that were left in our database that basically survived the dedupe and the restorations, and we wanted to make their title control numbers on this control tab. We were trying to make those numbers consistent with how we do control numbers, because in their standalone they basically use this catalog key. Always it's the control number. So that script, when we ran it to try and make the Quincy records standard with their control numbers, thankfully there's not that many, but there's about 200 of Quincy's records, so this does just affect Quincy, that were restored either in August or October, even though they matched based on the OCLC number to another record already in our database. I don't know why that happened, because the criteria that we gave Cersei Dynex was anything that matched based on OCLC number, don't restore it, leave it as is in the database. So I do have an example I'll show you, but what we're going to do on our end, I know Rhonda again is willing to help me with this. I basically don't want to go back to Cersei at this point. We're going to get these moved to the records that are already in our database, and that will take care of eliminating the duplicate. So I just wanted to show an example so you know if you see one of these that it's probably something that was restored, I'm guessing inadvertently, because the majority of what happened in that restoration with those three categories of problems we just talked about, it looked correct from the logs. So I don't know if these slipped through the cracks or what happened. So notice here there's two I love yous, and just doing the description view pane at the bottom, notice this first record, its key ends in 9985. There's Quincy attached to it. The second record, same thing, 9985. It has one of our libraries attached to it. So when I open up the Quincy record and go to the control tab, some of these don't have the restore date of August or October. Some of them I've checked do have it. So I'm not sure if these escaped the dedupe in general. If some of these that I've looked at that have the restore dates, if they escaped that processing. But luckily when that other script ran, it errored out about 200 of these. So to me, that's something that would be very doable to clean up here and eliminate the duplicates. So again, somewhat disheartening, because clearly there's matches in there based on the 001, but if there's only 200 of them, then I think that that's something that we can get cleaned up if we have time. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, luckily that mostly, like I said, will be Quincy. This one I know we've talked about, and this is something that I might have a better report to track these. But remember we talked about, because several of you noticed, magazine records where the incorrect record was retained after the initial dedupe in March. So you cataloged subsequent issues on the incorrect record. When the correct record was brought back into the database during either the first or the second phase of restoration, it then moved all of your holdings that were put in before the dedupe. So you're split across two records. So this is something that I tried to do a lot of them that were the obvious ones from the list, but there's still magazines on there that need consolidation, where it's Quincy, again, most likely the same control number, ends in 6925 in this example. Yep, 6925 in the other records. So again, it's a case where we need to do some consolidation because that 001 field wasn't followed as strictly as we wanted it to be followed. Okay. And then I think the only other thing, and this is where your help comes in, I know Macomb Library has reported some of these, and some of them maybe that, like Peoria's reported as duplicates. We admit when we had this restoration done, we wanted everything restored if it didn't match based on the 001. So that means, like what Macomb has noticed, there might have been records that were consolidated in OCLC, that 019 field that tells you if there's records that have been consolidated into it. If you don't know what the 019 is, don't worry about it. But yeah, that'd be great, Melissa, if you want to fix Team Vogue, that would be good. But we basically wanted everything restored if it didn't match based on the 001, but we know some of the 019 records probably should have been kept consolidated because that's how they were consolidated in OCLC, but those now have been restored back. I have an example I'll show you. So you may come across records where it's been merged in OCLC, and in our database we need that merge done, possibly because the dedupe restoration undid it for some of these. That happens all the time, actually. You know how it is. OCLC merges records. Our database maybe doesn't reflect that, but I know some of what we did during the restorations undid that because we basically wanted strict 001 matches. So let me show you an example. Let me go first to the pre-dedupe. Let me see if I can type this correctly. Okay, this is a girl on the train. Let me look that up here in the live database. Okay, it says it's not found. So what it should be on, hoping I have a good example here. This is the record that was retained in OCLC. Oh boy, look at it, 019. It's got a ton of numbers in there. So the one we were looking for was this first one, 881656206. So that record, even though we had it in the pre-dedupe server, it was restored back during the restoration because, again, it wasn't a strict 001 match. But then Macomb noticed it because it had been consolidated into this other record. So we just basically consolidated it back. So again, if you see 019s and think there needs to be items moved, you can use the procedure we talked about earlier, just sharing the control number and the title. But also, too, don't feel like you have to keep a close eye on the 019s. I know internally we try to do a good job with that, but I think that you may see some records with 019s where we have the records with the control numbers contained in that field that need to be merged into it, and that could be because of the dedupe bringing them back in. Okay. Okay, I think that's it for the dedupe. So it's basically keeping an eye out on our end, on your end, for these 019 merges, and then working on the serial holdings that are split across two records, and then those 200 or so Quincy items that either slip through the cracks or weren't processed right that seemed to match based on the 001. So those are the additional tasks we'll do from the dedupe. I'm anticipating we can do those internally, but if we need your help, we will let you know. But I'm hoping that we can work on them as we have time. Okay, like we told the users group, we're not planning to do another dedupe. We did share feedback with Cersei Dynex because we think just the methodology needs to be made clearer. We talked to the Swan staff too about this. Even for restorations, I feel like their process wasn't very clear cut. Mostly, I just want to thank you again for being patient during all of this, because each of you and your patrons too put up with a lot of frustration for this project. So I know it's definitely been a learning opportunity for us here, and for you too, I know. But I'm thinking most of the records should be good. These cases I've outlined, like the serial, some of these things I know need cleanup, but I think we're finally at the point where the majority of it should be resolved. But if you're seeing trends of things that aren't resolved, let me know, because I feel like I say it's fixed and then something pops up. So we'll see, but mostly I just want to say thank you again for being understanding, as this did not go like we expected it.
Thank you, Erica, for all your work.
And Kendall too.
Kendall.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. We're in good shape. We've got just a few minutes left. So the last thing on here, stuff that we kind of talk about during every meeting, changes to membership, new cataloging codes, professional development. Do you want to, Rhonda, hand this out since Kelly's taking notes and Lisa's the chat monitor? I'll get to where this is posted on the RSA site. Thank you. Okay, at the bottom of our committee page, okay, we are making good progress. The first page, union list libraries that have upgraded to basic online. Bushnell and Prairie Creek Public Libraries are pretty much set for cataloging. They're both at the phase where they're going to start entering patrons if they haven't already. Valley District Library upgraded some time ago, but their director, right now they don't have a director. We know a Farmington staff member is working there to keep it going. So we'll see when they hire a director, but they will need training and possibly collection batch edits. Our brand new basic online libraries, Neponset and Williamsfield, are both cataloging. Neponset is almost finished, so I'll do the second cataloging visit on February 9th, and then Martha is going to go for the patron entry. Ransom and Flanagan, like I mentioned, they're the two newest ones that we're going to get started with. First with an introductory call in the next couple weeks for both of them, and then I'll get them started cataloging in the next month or so. But we're anticipating that should be good for new libraries, hopefully, for a little bit. Notice we added some new home locations. These are mostly for the upgrading or the new libraries. Are the reason why a lot of these have been added. Let's see, the item type, there's the museum pass for normal. We made the equipment, the computer one, number 2. We made that for Prairie Creek because we regulate juvenile versus adult laptops differently, and we needed a more granular code. Categories 1, 2, and 3 didn't change. There's, of course, always new codes in 4 and 5. So if you're interested in using any of those, let us know. Amanda can add them to your team. I put a few things here since we're still focusing on new libraries and upgrading libraries. There's no workshops yet scheduled here for cataloging, but I'd like to see that become a priority once we can get these new libraries started, and then two, once I can get some of these brand new staff at our libraries trained. So workshops will come back, I promise. So the users group is this coming Thursday. There's a free webinar on the BibFrame pilot, the second phase, that's coming up in March. I put the link there. RSA Day, you might have seen this posted on the listserv. Hopefully you'll be able to come in the afternoon. I have to give a shameless plug. We're going to play a cataloging trivia game at our round table. Even if you don't know much about cataloging, you might know more than you think. So think about coming to the cataloging round table, but definitely the rest of the day should be good too with the Center for the Future of Libraries, Michael Figueroa. I always pronounce his name, but he's a really engaging speaker. He was at ILA a couple years ago. The book repair workshop, I wanted to mention, Roxy at Morton actually has a good idea. If they could record it there in short segments, and then she'll share the videos with us to post on our YouTube channel. So they're going to make some short videos of different types of repairs. And then when we have the videos, they're thinking maybe sometime this spring. It sounded like, I bet Katie knows, during your refresh project. But I thought that was a really good idea. And if anybody else has tasks like that you have in-house expertise and you'd be willing to share, we'd love to have your videos, because I think that just helps, again, all of this benefit from what all of us know. The last thing on here, Web Junction is trying to improve its course catalog for collections management, technical services. They do take webinars that were done elsewhere, for example, with the Association of Library Collections and Technical Services, the ALA division. But I think it's good that Web Junction is trying to make a more cataloging friendly course catalog. So I just put the link there since they've added some different content to it. Okay, let me take a look and see here. We're right at time. Yeah, the CMC Cataloging Maintenance Center is still going strong. They're analyzing the results of that survey from December, so we'll see what they say about that survey that I know probably several of you filled out about CMC use and possible services you'd like to see them offer. It is about 2 weeks to a month, they said, turnaround time. The Rails Consortia Committee did approve the cataloging working group recommendations at its October meeting, but I haven't seen too much from Rails actually promoting those. So those recommendations are something that I think the advanced group and then this group too will talk about. But basically it will help clarify and complement some of the policies we have and procedures. It's not going to supersede anything. Okay. The last thing I'll mention, has anybody seen this Find More Illinois mentioned anywhere? That is the new name for the Rails Overlay Project, that project where it will have consortia and standalones participating in a shared database for resource sharing, and also bibliographic records. So think of it as almost a mega catalog where you or your patrons could take that next step. If the item isn't available in RSA, they would go to this overlay project. The vendor they chose is Autographics, and the platform is called Share It, but they're calling it Find More Illinois because it goes along with the museum pass that Rails has called Explore More Illinois. So they're thinking in terms of promoting and branding these programs, they'll fit hand in hand. They are starting the pilot of this overlay project. There's about 20 libraries participating from Prairie Cat, Rock River, and Carly. So they have a mix of public and academic libraries. I don't know if RSA would participate in the test, but they are planning to open up the test to more libraries as early as later this year. So I know they want to get it tested and try to get started on it, which I think is pretty exciting because I know a lot of our libraries really don't use OCLC too much, too expensive, so I think this could be a viable solution for resource sharing. I admit I'm not crazy about taking catalog records from it. They mentioned that during the member update, and I was like, I don't know about that, but I think from the resource sharing piece of it. Okay, I think that's it. Just a couple minutes late in true Erica fashion. Do you, Liza or Erin, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll plan for the May meeting. Thanks everyone for coming. So May 10th, 9:30 to 12. And sorry again about the recording, but we've got the second half at least. And watch for the good notes that Kelly will write.
I needed those recordings.